Be ready. Start. In the present case, not only was the accused denied the assistance of a counsel during the trial, but such designation of counsel as was attempted at a late stage was either so indefinite or so close upon the trial as to amount to a denial of effective and substantial aid in that regard. The court ought to have seen to it that in the proceedings before the court, the accused was dealt with justly and fairly by keeping in view the cardinal principles that the accused of a crime is entitled to a counsel which may be necessary for his defense as well as to facts as to law. The same yardstick may not be applicable in respect of economic offences or where offences are not punishable with substantive sentence of imprisonment but punishable with fine only. The fact that the right involved is of such a character that it cannot be denied without violating those fundamental principles of liberty and justice which lie at the base of all our judicial proceedings. The necessity of counsel was so vital and imperative that the failure of the trial court to make an effective appointment of a counsel was a denial of due process of law. It is equally true that the absence of fair and proper trial would be violation of fundamental principles of judicial procedure on account of breach of mandatory provisions of section 304 CRPC. After carefully going through the entire records of the trial court, I am convinced that the appellant accused was not provided the assistance of a counsel in a substantial and meaningful sense. To hold and decide otherwise would be simply to ignore actualities and also would be to ignore the fundamental postulates already adverted to. Article 21 of the Constitution provides that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. Speedy justice and fair trial to a person accused of a crime are integral part of Article 21. These are imperatives of the dispensation of justice. In every criminal trial, the procedure prescribed in the code has to be followed, the laws of evidence have to be adhered to, and an effective opportunity to the accused to defend himself must be given. If an accused remains unrepresented by a lawyer, the trial court has a duty to ensure that he is provided with proper legal aid. Article 22 1 of the Constitution provides that no person who is arrested shall be detained in custody without being informed of the grounds for such arrest, nor shall be denied the right to consult and to be defended by a legal practitioner of his choice. Article 39A of the Constitution inter alia articulates the policy that the state shall provide free legal aid by a suitable legislation or schemes to ensure that opportunities for securing justice are not denied to any citizen by reason of economic or other disabilities. The offences with which the appellant stands charged are of a very serious nature, and though it is true that he has had to undergo the ordeal of a trial and has suffered rigorous imprisonment for some time, that would not justify his prayer that we should not order his retrial. In our opinion, having regard to the gravity of the offences charged against the appellant, the ends of justice require that we should direct that he should be tried for the said offences de novo according to law. We also direct that the proceedings to be taken against the appellant hereafter should be commenced without delay and should be disposed as expeditiously as possible. This is because the appellate court has plenary powers for revaluating and reappraising the evidence and even to take additional evidence by the appellate court itself or to direct such additional evidence to be collected by the trial court. But to replay the whole laborious exercise after erasing the bulky records relating to the earlier proceedings by bringing down all the persons to the court once again for repeating the whole depositions would be a sheer waste of time, energy, and cost unless there is miscarriage of justice otherwise. Hence, the said course can be resorted to when it becomes unpreventable for the purpose of averting a failure of justice. The Superior Court, which orders a de novo trial, cannot afford to overlook the realities and the serious impact on the proceedings cases in trial courts which are crammed with dockets and how much that order would inflict hardship on many innocent persons who once took all the trouble to reach the court and deposed their versions in the very same case. Thank you.